Out of the
All
way.
right, so Jodie Campbell, she's going to be coming up here right away. She got a very quick setup, so it'll just be a really quick turnaround as we get everything ready for the next presentation. So now we're diving into recipe creation. I think it's been a nice, good, fun format, right? We're getting some deep dive information that maybe doesn't come as much or have the opportunity to go as deep with some of the recipes, but the recipes are obviously that practical element to dive into and bring into our life every day. This is what it's all about. So
I'm personally so stoked for this next presentation. We got Jodie Campbell here, and honestly, you got to follow Jodie Campbell on Instagram and check out her blog and her website because it's so beautifully done, as I'm sure this presentation is going to be. You know, in my personal health journey, vinegar actually changed my life. My life literally changed when I found a small book in a thrift store when I was like 14. And it was called The Apple Cider Vinegar Miracle by Dr. Bragg's or whatever. Yeah, Bragg's Apple Cider Vinegar Miracle. There he is. And it convinced me to start drinking vinegar every day with honey like this. But it was literally one of the first steps on my path to all this fermented food and goodness. So it's beautiful.
cool. Let's make that a kind of a topic of conversation as Jodie's getting set up. Wherever you're at, if you're on the Facebook, you're on the Zoom, type in, what was your first ferment? What was that kind of gateway ferment that started things for you? So you mentioned apple cider vinegar. Yeah, for me, it was yogurt. Started there, you know, not only eating, but making as well. And then it was sauerkraut, and it's just been everything since then. Yeah, just post the comments in there. Let us know. Okay, we got yogurt, we got kimchi, we got a few comments coming in. Nice.
Yeah, I know my papa has made wine my whole life, so he knows what's good.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I met Denis' dad a number of years ago. Denis and I have been working together for about 11 years. And we were getting into the fermentation. And then, of course, you know, naturally, when you get into it, you just want to share with others. And we had started getting into mead making. Dude, and we're going to share that in one of these evenings coming up here. And I met his dad, and Denis had been, you know, starting to make these things. And I have this term I like to call the fermented foods, like the friendly ferments. So, you know, Denis had been starting this mead, and his dad's like, no, that's what I call a friendly ferment.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one, tasty one. All right. So,
all right.
Yeah, you ready to go?
I am ready to go. We are ready to go.
Okay, excellent.
Some water and we're good. Is my sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound is perfect.
Awesome.
Excellent. Okay. Well, without further ado, and for this session, keep the questions coming. Just as we're in the flow, as Jodie's in her flow, I'll kind of come over as voice of God as I normally do, and we'll have you up here, and we'll just keep the questions going as you're going through your steps in your process.
Yeah, I think I've really set this up to be informal.
Yeah, totally.
As far as the presentation, because it is so simple that we can actually entertain those questions as we're going along. And the really good part about this particular recipe, if you see my setup, I think I have the simplest setup compared from last week to now. And it actually was intentional to be able to do it this way, to show you the simplicity of what we're going to get into. So it's switchels and shrubs that we're actually going to be talking about. This is the third fermentation festival that I have shared Switchel with everyone, and it seems to be a hit.
Is it time to switchel it up, Jodie?
Oh boy. Oh, this is what this evening is going to be like. Hey, is this how we're going to wrap this up? It's okay. It's all good. I love it. So before we do our dive into shrubs and switchels, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I work in the field of nutrition and digestive health coaching. So a lot of times I'm doing that much deeper dive and coaching people into the resources that they need to get their digestive health back on track. That is my area of expertise, and I've been doing this for quite some time. So the recipe I want to share with you tonight is often the first ferment that I will share and introduce to a client. And it's the simplicity of what we're actually introducing. And you'll notice when we go through here, I don't have any salt. I don't have any. I don't need it. Everybody's panicking, right? If you watched last week's session, everybody's like, where's the salt? You're like coating it in salt and stuff. I don't have any salt. I'm totally breaking all of the rules tonight. When it comes to the fermentation piece, Mel, you should have seen it behind the camera. Like, oh, we'll get you salt. Don't need it. So one of the other things that I really love about this particular drink, Denis kind of talked on it before, is vinegars. Who's even thought about drinking vinegars? So what I don't want you to do, though, is run to your pantry and start guzzling balsamic vinegar and red wine vinegar. That's probably not going to land well and probably not going to taste so great. And it's probably got some preservatives in there that your gut isn't going to like either at such a high dose. So what we're going to actually use are vinegars that are through a natural fermentation process, but that they're still raw and unpasteurized. So we still have that really good probiotic in there and all of the other pieces so that it still becomes like a whole ferment. It's not extracted. We're not dealing with anything that's distilled as far as a vinegar. So my journey in coming across a Switchel, I wish this was one of the first ferments or beverages that I had come across, because due to its simplicity, especially if you're not going to make the apple cider vinegar yourself. So what I'm going to show you tonight is exactly the process I would walk a client through if we were making this first initial ferment together. Obviously, when I'm working with clients, we get to the sauerkrauts, we get to those other really beautiful ferments. But just right out of the gate, we're just going to start with something simple. So even in my own journey, I have come a long way. When I think to where I am now doing these sorts of things, I always think of my humble beginnings. Melina talked about being a C-section or having a C-section. So I was born C-section, and then right out of the gate, formula with brown sugar. So I was set up right from the beginning to have a very not functioning microbiome. But I'm proof that through changes and lifestyle changes and really kind of going down this whole rabbit hole and exposing yourself to friendly ferments, the advantages that will come your way, and your health continues to get better and better as we move along. So switchels and shrubs. What's a switchel? What's a shrub? Okay, I'm going to totally clear this up right now. A shrub is actually made from 3 parts, equal parts. So you're going to have like whatever ratio you're going to use. So it's going to be a fruit, a sweetener, and a vinegar. That's actually how you make a shrub. If you were to do any sort of Googling on a shrub, you'd find that they actually use shrubs in lots of fancy bars to make these cocktails with. So I know it's approaching a time of year where maybe people are still going to be getting together and you want to have something on hand. And a shrub is really simple to be able to make. And on average, they take about 4 weeks to ferment, and you actually have a shrub, and it becomes this syrup. You separate then the fruit, you kind of pass it through a sieve, and you end up with this really thick syrup. An example of a shrub technically would be an apple cider vinegar, because it's had its equal parts of the apples, the vinegar, and then the sweetener that was used. Terry Willard on Friday's presentation, he actually walked you through how to make a very simple recipe with an apple cider vinegar and how to do it yourself. Most of my clients, when I'm working with them, if I was to add that step in, first we're going to start making your own apple cider vinegar. They're going to be like, who is this girl? Where did she come from? And this is not what I signed up for. So we take it really nice and gentle out of the gate. So even when I'm using, Denis had mentioned it earlier with the Bragg's, I've tried a lot of different apple cider vinegars. I like this one the best. If you're going to buy it, this is just, I find it's just a nice, stronger, tangier taste to it. And you can actually see in here that there's still a lot of good content in there. It's still in its whole form, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Also, too, with an apple cider vinegar, Terry shared that presentation. So if that's a step that you want to take at home, maybe you're further along in your fermentation process and comfort, absolutely, you could make a shrub That's what a shrub would be that apple cider vinegar. What we're going to do is take that shrub and we're going to kind of convert it into kind of like a mocktail, a cocktail. So actually shrub is really good in gin. Just thought I would throw that in there.
And there was a quick question to clarify. I was able to type it out in Zoom, obviously, but to clarify the spelling of a shrub.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I have to look at my notes, hey? S-H-R-U-B. Just like a shrub that you would plant in the ground. So you kind of have to refine your search, because if you just type in shrub, you're going to get all sorts of Alberta grown or whatever kind of like plants. So just put in like a beverage or a fermented drink, and that'll help refine your search to what you're looking for. But you can basically make a shrub out of any type of fruit, okay? And that's that fermentation process. So it is not a lacto ferment, so it is different. One of the reasons too why I will use this recipe that I'm going to show you as far as a switchel is anybody who has histamine intolerances. Because we can control the amount of ferment going into that beverage, we can dial it up or dial it down depending on the system and the person's body that it's going into. So it's a really nice introductory ferment as well. So what do we need? This is our shrub. We're going to convert it now and use it in a switchel. So a switchel actually has its roots back, I think, as far as I could get, was the 17th century. So it's been around for a long time. And I would imagine if we were to ask people from different cultures all over the world, they probably had something very similar. So a switchel actually had its origins in the Caribbean. So it's what they would actually take into the cane fields as far as an electrolyte drink to replenish themselves. Okay, so what do we think of today as electrolyte drinks? Stuff my kids are not allowed to drink.
Right, Gatorade and these kinds of things. Yeah.
Powerade, Gatorade. We could do a whole presentation just on those drinks and what they would do to your liver. Just don't do it. If that's the PSA, just don't do it.
Yeah. We got a good recommendation. Coconut water.
Coconut water,
Great
absolutely
electrolyte.
fantastic. Coconut water is great. I always prefer it fresh though, and I can't get to where it's fresh right now. But coconut water, excellent electrolyte. Excellent suggestion. Keep putting them in the comments because we'll share those with others. And if you have questions, keep bringing them in. This is why we have people moderating the comment section. So keep putting questions in.
Maybe we'll come to this one now because you were talking about the difference between a shrub and a switchel. So Vashti asked, can you touch on those yummy gut shots with apple cider vinegar, or is that a form of switchel?
No, so if you're just taking, so a lot of people do this, man, they're brave. Like a shot of apple cider vinegar, that would just be a shrub. You would just be drinking it as a shot. I find for myself that that's just not tasting very good. I don't like it. People maybe will do it for about a week and then they kind of step away from it because they really don't like that interaction with an apple cider vinegar shot. Some people will do it as far as building acid into that stomach back in again. So there is benefits to it, but I personally do not like to just drink a shrub like that. I like to mix it and have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Pretend I'm Tom Cruise from Cocktail.
For sure. So one thing I'll just caveat with all of this, just from personal experience, and I was chatting with some of the chefs in the kitchen as well, who are they're developing some drinking vinegars similar to what you're doing that we're going to have available in the shot. Because they're quite popular. They're trendy. You can get them in all different kinds of forms, and we'll make them like herbal and medicinal and wonderful. But their experience and what they suggest is never have it without food.
I would agree with that. Like when that hits, like I've tried it before, it does not feel good. And
it ramps up the digestion too.
It really does.
Yeah.
I don't do it. I don't even recommend clients to do it that way either with apple cider vinegar. I prefer this actual switchel, bringing it in and kind of mellowing it out. So there's lots of advantages to learning how to make a really quick switchel.
Yeah, cool.
Excellent question though. That was good. Okay, should we jump right into it? How to make it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Show us how it's done.
So if you got your handout, it was just 6 cups of filtered water. If you have a glass jar, great. I think I have stock in this particular company. I have so many mason jars. I just really like this size, and I seem to never have enough in my house. I think this is like 1,500 milliliters, so it's not your average kind of mason jar. But if you have another glass container, use that. They talked about it last week with ferments. It's better to have them in glass or ceramic. And don't even buy your apple cider vinegar in plastic. Just don't do it, because it kind of leaches and pulls those things into the products. You're not even really, it does taste different. I've tried it.
No, totally, especially that strong acid, right? And you don't know how long it's been sitting in that plastic bottle, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it. So here, if we follow the instructions for the Switchel here, let me just got what I got going here.
And everyone should have received Jodie's recipe handout that she so beautifully created. That came as an attachment.
So I know I said I was going to do it with blackberries, but you know what? Blackberries just aren't in season. So I'm actually going to use a local frozen Alberta Saskatoon. So what I love about this recipe is there's room to flavor it and do it how you would prefer for it to taste. Okay, so there's lots of opportunities for alternatives or switching things up. Maybe that's why it's called a switchel. So you can switch things up, right? Okay, so what we want to add to our water is this 1/4 cup of the apple cider vinegar here. So I'm going to pour it. This would be very easy for someone to go to the store and get their hands on, right? If you didn't want to go that extra step of actually making your apple cider vinegar, you could buy it, okay? We all know what it looks like. It's available at a shopping center. It's not some sort of specialty item that you have to try to track down. Super simple. The other next piece here is the sweetener that you can add. So you have a choice. You could use a raw honey, or you could use maple syrup. At this time of year, I really like to use the maple syrup because I find that my honey is harder. Just from living in Calgary, things kind of cool down and the honey gets hard, and then I gotta like dig it out and shake it. So for convenience, I would choose maple syrup. The advantage is as well to using, it wouldn't matter, honey, maple syrup, there's advantages to both. But with a maple syrup, not only are you getting that sweetness factor to kind of counteract a little bit of the vinegar, but maple syrup, like this is not Aunt Jemima. I just thought I would point that out. This is just, it's not like it's real. We wouldn't want to be squeezing that out into the Switchel. So we do want a real maple syrup. And maple syrup is loaded with minerals. And this is the component that brings into the Switchel, that brings all those beautiful benefits of it being a full kind of electrolyte replenishing drink. This is where you're going to get a lot of that from, is from that maple syrup. You get it from the honey as well. And it's a natural sweetener. Melina talked about zinc in the previous presentation. Maple syrup is great for zinc, okay? So this is, again, really complicated step. We're just going to pour that maple syrup right in. The next piece. So I'm a big ginger fan. This is Alberta grown ginger that I got from Blue Mountain. So I didn't even know that that was a possibility. So Blue Mountain has been my garden this year. It's been a busy summer, so they have been supplying me with a lot of really great produce. And one thing, yeah, I was getting my hands on this really fresh ginger. As I'm peeling it, you could just smell it, and my mouth is now starting to water. So this is good. I love ginger for that. With this here, so I do my ginger a little bit different. I always use a potato peeler.
Actually, do you know the spoon method?
I do, but I don't like it.
Oh. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, no, I've seen people, my friends, and who do a lot of like Japanese or Chinese cooking. They use the spoon. I tried it, and I really like a potato or apple peeler. So for the ginger, I like a lot of ginger in my Switchel. I just really like that to steep. I like that flavor in there. So I've just kind of taken off that outer coating of the ginger, and I just like to get like ribbon pieces, so I have actually more exposure and they're nice and thin. You could, if you wanted to, you could just kind of cut off a few little slivers as well. That's always an option. I just think it also looks prettier in ribbon form when it's like floating around in the Switchel. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I see why you don't like the spoon method now.
do you?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the spoon really, it's great at just taking off that thinnest layer of
Yeah.
the skin. But if you're actually after, you know, nice lots surface area,
Yeah,
the ribbons, then this totally makes sense.
So on here, on my recipe, I have that just kind of that 1-inch knob of fresh ginger. You could grate it. Some people don't want to have to strain, or maybe they just want at the end, they just want to pour it into the glass. This is a little bit easier to remove as kind of a ribbon piece, or just leaving that knob of ginger at the bottom. It really just comes down to preference. This is just a preference thing. Just going to peel a little bit more of it here. And then we're just going to simply add that in and get that going. The one last thing that we need to add, use what you have. Don't overcomplicate this recipe. If you have berries maybe that you picked over the summer and they're frozen in the freezer, they were picked at that height of, you know, freshness, and you want to be able to use them for something, pull them out of the freezer. You don't have to defrost them, just put them right in. So what we're looking for here.
So on that note, could you use dried ginger pieces or powder?
Don't use dried ginger.
No,
in this particular recipe? That's a very good question. It doesn't taste very well. It also changes the taste and also changes that texture. It becomes a little bit gritty. It's not quite as nice. It is much better fresh, the ginger. So I would suggest if this is the first time you're going to make it, use fresh.
Okay, another question.
Yep.
This is coming from Chris, who's joining us from Mexico. So she's drinking the coconut water fresh. Anyway, so she asks, and I'm sure she must have some in her garden maybe, is why no skin on the ginger?
You could leave it. You could leave it. Again, it comes down to preference. I found mine sometimes when I've let it steep for too long. I get these little chunks of it. You don't have to peel it. It's just a preference. Again, yeah, good question.
Yeah, and if you're peeling it, then you can also save it. You can use it for other recipes.
You could use it, absolutely. Yep, totally valid. So the next thing that our Switchel is missing is just the fruit or the berry that we're going to add in. And what I got was Alberta Saskatoon berries. If that was a fruit or a berry that ever transported me back in time as a kid, it would be this. It just has such a uniqueness and a flavor to it. And I love the color that it creates. It just creates such an appetizing, and especially if you want to make your mocktails or cocktails, you can make a shrub with the Saskatoon berries. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So,
all right, question: could you use cranberries, or are you thinking of just sweeter berries?
Any berry. I've even made. I got my hands on some really good fresh peaches, and did a Switchel. I was a peach ginger Switchel. That was fantastic as well. So just use what you have on hand. Nothing, if it's a preference thing, yeah, just use what you got.
Okay, cool. And then just to clarify, Tanis is asking how much maple syrup you used.
Oh, yeah. Good question. So this was 1/3 of a cup.
1/3 of a cup.
1/3 of a cup.
Is that something that you can also,
modify it?
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. If you felt that was too much, here's the really great thing with this recipe. If you felt that you wanted to dilute it, you could add more water. If you felt that you would maybe like a little bit more sweetness, add a little bit more. There's still benefits to all of these ingredients. The really great part is when they're all put together, it's the unique product that it makes in the end that makes it such a nutrient dense drink as well. So all we're missing here is our cup of berries. So our Saskatoon berries is what we're going to make. And I'm going to not splash myself. Okay. You could even crush these up ahead of time if you didn't want to wait for that steeping time for things to kind of be pulled out into that Switchel. You could do that too.
And I assume dried berries, frozen berries, fresh berries.
Any type of berry. I like a fresh berry because I'm usually going to consume it within 1 to 2 days. So I just like something fresh. But that's what I mean. The recipe lends itself to be for customization and that personalization. So, no. Okay. I'm going to do the hardest part of the demo now. Actually, in the past, I would totally have somebody else do this whole piece and I would walk it through them. But I guess I could have done that today with Melina's daughter. I could have walked her through it. Could have made Addison do this. This is it. Seriously, you just shake it. Get things moving around. You want it all mixed in. If you wanted to consume it right away, say maybe this was summer, and you wanted to have that refreshing electrolyte drink, you could just open this now and pour it over ice and have it ready to go. I actually will leave mine on the counter, kind of overnight, 12 to 24 hours. I'll actually let that steep, let that ginger get in there, all of that extraction out of the berries, that maple syrup, just really getting it to steep, and you actually get a nicer flavor at the end as well.
And that's, I can see the advantage of using a frozen berry, because then you've got those crack cell walls and just all the juice and nutrients and flavors just coming right out.
Mm-hmm. These were a frozen Saskatoon. Yeah, if I would have crushed them and done something with them, yeah, you would have had more color out of them right away for sure. Another really great reason why I like a Switchel is a lot of times when I'm working with clients, they're often dehydrated. And they're like, I don't like water. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Switchel, I know because of the electrolyte properties with the minerals, with that ginger, with all of the properties with the ginger. Ginger also relieves a lot of digestive distress, gas, bloating. So when you look at all of the different ingredients that actually go into making a Switchel, something this simple has a lot of advantages and can do a lot for you. And you could really see this was not a complicated demo at all.
All right, I love this one here. I love the creativity, Vashti. She's asking about using elderberry syrup.
Absolutely, you could.
Yeah, what a brilliant idea, because you got your sweetener and your berries like all in one.
Absolutely, you could. That was a good one. I have elderberry syrup at home. I could totally start experimenting. Yeah, even watching last week and tuning into all of the presentations, I just couldn't get myself out of the kitchen. I was so motivated by what everybody was doing and all of the experiences and different ideas, even coming in from people that were watching and asking their questions. Sometimes it really gets you kind of go, oh yeah, that would be a possibility. So it's always great.
Yeah, totally. So let's throw it in the comments. What are you guys thinking of? What are you if you're gonna try this recipe, which if there were an easier recipe of the whole festival, I think this is it, right? I think we can all do this tonight. Make it happen. What are you going to try? Which ones are you going to be using? What kind of fruit? What kind of sweetener? Any kinds of herbs, spices? Let us know. And here's my question.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is what I always do. I always try and think of what else can I put in there? How can I like stack, nutrients, that type of thing. So instead of water, I'd be using a herbal tea.
You could.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Like herbal tea, choose your own adventure, vinegar, fruit or a syrup, something like that.
Right. Is there a different name for that though? When you use a mushroom base, it wouldn't be the recipe I showed was a Switchel. What would we call, is there a name for it? Or is this a whole new pioneered path?
I don't know.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's like how new things kind of come about. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So here we got some ideas here. Okay, Denise got one coming through Facebook.
Is this gonna ferment? Do you leave this with the lid on tight? Oh.
Yeah, great question. So
that's an excellent question.
So Jodie's just about to get that. Is this gonna ferment? Do you leave the lid on tight, just sitting on the counter? How does this work now? If
you were to leave this on the counter to kind of steep, this would be something loose because it is still a living ferment from that apple cider vinegar. And now that we've added that sugar in there and also from the berries, we're waking things up and things are going to get a little active. You may even find, actually, I've already got some activity here at the top of it. If you wanted to and you wanted to slow down, you could put it in the fridge. I like it on the counter at room temperature and then kind of overnight. And then I just pop it into the fridge until I'm ready to go and have some. If you don't like the chunk factor You could strain it off and leave behind the ginger and the Saskatoon berries and such too. So I would just pour it all into the same glass, and it would just kind of be some treats after I was done drinking it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So Stephanie says she made so many ferments on Saturday. Awesome. What a great use of a Saturday. Yeah.
That was me too. And then I was eyeing up that fermenting pot. I'm like, ooh, I could use that. I've run out of counter space though.
For sure. All right. So Deborah's got a question.
Yes.
Could be a use of, or a good use of, a kombucha turned vinegar, question mark. So the question is, could you use a kombucha?
Absolutely. You're not limited. So I guess this is what it really opens up to. So all that I've shown you is really just using apple cider vinegar, but you could make lots of other healthy benefits from vinegar drinks. So this was just really only one demonstration of using something quite common that people would have access to if they didn't want to make an apple cider vinegar. So if you're more further along, experiment, bring in those flavors. You're not going to go wrong. You're only going to be able to enjoy what you've created in the end.
Cool. So Donna asks, if you use a syrup, like the example of the elderberry syrup, how much would you need? I assume you would just switch out your maple syrup or your honey, just direct with syrup. So
it comes down to preference. If I'm working with a client, I might have to dial back some of that sweetener, but for somebody who maybe doesn't have certain issues with sugars, I would just say I would stick to that 1/3. It's quite diluted. Yeah. It really is. And if you don't want that much, dial it back. No big deal.
Alex asks, pomegranate syrup, question mark. I think you're probably a thumbs up on that, hey?
Yep.
All right. And then, okay, awesome. Thank you, Joy. She's clarified that terminology that was on the tip of your tongue that we're all looking for. It's called an oxymel.
Never heard of it.
You never heard of an oxymel? Wow. Okay, you're so in the ballpark here, Jodie.
Yeah.
It's you're already doing it basically. So Joy is clarifying. She's saying oxymel is herbs, honey, and vinegar.
Okay, there you go. That's fantastic. Totally something that I will be checking out after this because I'm needing some new projects.
Yeah, there we are. Okay.
Yeah.
Oxymel, next step. Eli Ross puts in a comment, shrub booch.
Yeah.
And then Tina asks, do you have to watch the amount you drink? Can too much upset your stomach?
Totally depends on the context in which you're introducing it to. If this was a client that had some pretty major digestive distress, I would probably get them to split that out over a couple of days. When I look at somebody's, again, it just goes back to context. I've never actually ever had a problem with anybody drinking a Switchel, even something like this over a 2-day period. I've never had that feedback before, because often what I find is most people are missing that ferment piece. Malcolm talked about that last week, kind of those kind of more wisdom-based food groups. And ferments is one of those. And most people are not having any sort of ferments at all. So this is just a nice introduction. There would be no limit as to how much you could drink, but trust your gut.
Okay, Jodie Campbell, we got a question for you. Do you find that there's a better time of day to be drinking this? Like, is it something that's more effective? Like, do you have it before a meal, or do you have it after a meal, or you just drink it when you're thirsty?
That's a really great question, because you could drink it if you were experiencing a little bit of digestive distress because of the ginger component in there. Some people may think of it as something you would have before a meal because of the increases, the acidity from the apple cider vinegar, as far as stomach acid production as well. I'm not a big fan of drinking a lot before a meal, because then you're going to dilute what your body has already put in there as far as digestive secretions to help break down your meal. Mine is in the afternoon. Is most times I'm kind of doing something, I'm outside, and I just want a refreshing drink, and Switchel fits that bill. I also find it's a really great ferment for kids, because you can adjust it and they can get really involved in creating it and making it, because it's not complicated. I usually get my kids in shredding for sauerkraut, so when they know it's a Switchel day, they're kind of off the hook. Another thing I forgot with a Switchel, really great for colds and flus, not only because of the content, but a lot of the times if people have had any sort of diarrhea, then this is a really good electrolyte replenisher. So this would be a replacement for, a lot of times people will be drinking those Pedialytes and things like that. This would be a swap out if you're looking for that electrolyte replacement. So it's very practical, very practical.
All right. Is there a honey/maple syrup substitute if one is trying to take sugars out of their diet? And or could you just make it without?
You could make it without. Maybe it's enough from the type of berry or the fruit that you have in there that you find that that's enough for your palate to kind of counteract maybe the intensity of the apple cider vinegar. So a Switchel is really a combination of all of the things put together is what makes a Switchel. But you could definitely maybe have a sweeter fruit, and that's enough for you. That could be definitely.
Cool. All right. Some more comments related to the Oxymel. Simone saying, yeah, she thinks that fire cider technically is considered an Oxymel.
Okay, so I have made.
Because it's got the honey, if you add honey to that recipe. Honey and vinegar. Roger says he just loves apple cider vinegar. He mixes it with honey, turmeric, and pepper and some hot water.
Awesome. You could. I have made fire cider vinegar. It is a good kick in the pants. It is such an intense, but it's just all of the flavors that go actually into making that fire cider. It is a brilliant ferment. You just need to be patient with it because it does take a bit of time, and sometimes it's hard, depending on in season, to track down some of the ingredients for it, but it is a beautiful ferment. I actually have a recipe for it on my blog.
All right, awesome. Okay, so histamine issues, shorter or longer ferment for this one?
This is a short ferment, but even still, I didn't make my apple cider vinegar, so I really don't know how long this particular company ferments their apple cider vinegar for. But again, it would be diluted. I wouldn't, if you knew you had histamine issues, you wouldn't want to just take this home and just start guzzling it back. It would be just a slow interaction with it and seeing how your gut would respond to it. That's the best form of information when you're going to make decisions like that. It's how you feel when you're consuming it.
All right. And can the lid be tightened down? So you've just tightened it up. Yeah, you can leave it.
Yeah, you can throw it in the fridge.
Yeah, no worries of it exploding on your counter, nothing like that.
No. If you were to, no, I've never had that problem before. No. And I just store it in the fridge after I've let it steep for about 12 hours. Then I throw it into the fridge because I like it cold. Yeah. Good questions.
All right. Chris is on it, making a fire cider Switchel right now. And we got some more comments, questions that Denise going to share.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Jodie Campbell, do you think you can touch upon a little bit how drinking apple cider vinegar can help people that are suffering from heartburn? And
Absolutely.
what is going on that you would think that it would burn you more or whatever?
I love this. This is probably a conversation I have with every client. So heartburn and reflux is actually not typically caused from an overproduction of stomach acid. It's the exact opposite. It's that your body isn't making enough in that stomach area, that digestive secretion. And so food isn't breaking down in a timely manner. And lots of times gases build up and then it blows the valve. And that's what you're burping. I watch people, when they're eating a meal and immediately they start burping, I know that it's because there's lack of stomach acid production. And then they just start pushing on things and trying to maneuver things around with their stomach to try to ease that pain. So apple cider vinegar will help with increasing that acid production in there so that food can be broken down faster. Sometimes with clients though, this isn't going to cut it. Sometimes we have to use a little bit of supplementation with stomach acid to actually bring relief and boost up that content. So that's a really great question. And being that stomach acid is so critical right at the forefront of digestion, you've got to make sure that you have adequate amounts because downstream, everything else is dependent on your food being broken down in a timely manner. So you got to have good stomach acid. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
What do you got there, Denise? You joining me? Come on. It's all good.
I just want to show off everyone
Yeah,
this
I'm
really
interested
cool
too.
book we've got in here.
Ooh.
Rejuvenate Your Brain Naturally by Robert Rogers. And perhaps this is one of the single most important things we can do for ourselves. I mean, this book is so popular because we know a lot of people that are having trouble. The thing that is so interesting is that there's only a short section of the book that's actually about what you can do, because most of it is like about, and it's kind of scary, like what is going on that our brain needs to be rejuvenated. But
Yes.
it sounds like one of the single largest contributors is antacids.
Yep.
Like it's
Suppressing.
does something to destroy your connections between your brain cells, you know.
Well, if you, yeah, because right at that
Wow.
forefront of digestion, you need those enzymes and that stomach acid to break down that food into denatured proteins, so that when you actually get into that small intestine and we want the nutrients to get absorbed into the body, if they're not broken down, you're gonna have problems. So the brain is also affected when food isn't broken down either, because it also needs nutrients to do its job too. So all roads in the body are always going to lead back to digestive health and the gut. You had it, actually, Denis, want to grab your vinegar?
Oh, do you want me to do
Yeah.
some show and tell?
Yeah, I do. It was really good. So I want him to share it.
Okay. Just all I wonder if you can just keep an eye on the questions there, if anyone. Okay, so
Ooh,
I
what do
brought
you
show and
got?
tell. This has actually been an experiment in my locker for about 3 months now. It's really cool.
In
Hold
his
on here.
locker. Where is this said locker?
This was actually my experiment I wanted to capture a Jun SCOBY. So you know how you can like capture from any bottle of kombucha, or in this case it's Jun. So it's the fermented honey kombucha. And I was successful. I captured a SCOBY. Just
Where
from
was
adding
it?
a bottle. I added the bottle of Jun, right? You just add the bottle of Jun and you make a honey water mixture, and I created life, or life created itself.
Pretty
And
cool.
the thing is, because I've been kind of neglecting it, you can just keep feeding it honey, right? And
I just want to smell it and see what it's all about. That's potent.
Yeah.
That's been in a locker. Actually,
it's pretty good.
That smells like a 16-year-old's locker. That's what that smells like after gym class.
Yeah. But it's not, yeah, when you neglect your kombucha, this is when it makes vinegar.
That's exactly it.
SCOBYs. But this is actually some of the, I actually would like you to taste some of the vinegar I made.
I got a lot of projects over winter. I just keep taking all these notes over this last week and this week. So this is really great.
So this one, interestingly, I colored it with black goji berries, which was something really weird I discovered exists. Ooh, so it's really pretty.
It is.
But yeah, this is
Look
straight
how
up.
active that is.
Yeah, I know, it's sparkling.
Whoa.
But that's straight up vinegar. So, but that's kombucha vinegar for you. It's honestly one of the easiest ways you can get a lot of vinegar.
That is absolutely fantastic. That was in your locker too?
Yes, it was brewed in my locker.
So good.
It's delicious.
I need a locker. I didn't know I needed a locker for all these.
Something that really fascinates me about vinegar is how it's such a good way to extract herbal constituents. So in this case, I soaked black goji berries in the vinegar I made, and that's how you get this beautiful color,
it's really good.
Beautiful flavor. But vinegar is actually, it's almost as good as alcohol when it comes down to its extractive properties. Like medicinal compounds are extracted into the vinegar, and you can get some really yummy things going on, really cool colors.
You want to try it? It's really good.
Delish, yeah.
It almost has like I don't eat ice cream, but if I did, I would pour this on top of it.
Pétillant.
Like it was just very, That's really good.
Okay, we got some few more questions coming through here.
All right. And okay, let's do the questions and then stay tuned. We have a giveaway
Ooh.
to do as well.
Love it.
Okay, so someone has a question here about,
Oh, I like that.
okay, this is from Roy Smith. And he's wondering about a dental hygienist said the vinegar will erode the enamel on my teeth and said I should brush my teeth immediately after drinking apple cider vinegar in a few ounces of water. Yeah, do you think there's any risk of an enamel damage with Switchel?
Yeah, it's diluted. If you were really seriously concerned about that, drink it with a straw. Bypass that hole and just kind of drink it and swallow it. You could use a straw if that was something that you were concerned about the enamel, but
you think it's diluted enough?
It is definitely diluted enough. Good question, though.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
What else we got going?
Over here.
All right, we ready for the draw? So we need to come up with a skill testing question.
Oh.
So from tonight, maybe from Melina's presentation.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll choose one winner from Facebook, one winner from Zoom. And again, you got to be local here to Calgary to pick it up. Sorry about that. Just the nature of it.
Mm-hmm. You come up with it. This is your giveaway. I just give away stuff for free. I don't make them work for it.
What was that special Latin word that came up in this class? What was that special Latin word that Jodie had to search for? Or was that a whole new word for you, Jodie?
Totally a whole new word.
Yeah. What was the special Latin word today?
People don't even know what they're going to win. But,
actually.
Right, there you go.
Oh, yeah. If anyone wants a Jen Scobie, you can go and barter for me.
Okay, so let me tell you what you've just won. So the good folks at Holy Kraut, if you know them, local business here in Calgary. So holykraut.biz is their website. They've got all these incredible gift packs that they've got together for the season. So they have a charcuterie pack. So that's one of the prizes. So there's fermented mustard, fermented pepper sauce, fire cider, sriracha kraut, and sriracha kraut salt. That's where they take the kraut, dehydrate it, add some salt. So you got like salt and seasoning all in one with your probiotics, and 2 jars of kraut. So that's one of the packs that one of our lucky viewers is going to win. And then the immunity pack is another gift pack, and it is a wild sauerkraut, a gut shot, fire cider, and sunshine kraut salt. Yeah. Okay. So the first one on Zoom was, who is it? Chris, right on. This is not Chris from Mexico, is it?
I'll take it to him.
Okay, well, Chris, let us know. I know Chris, there is a Chris from Mexico. Krys? Or a different spelling? Sorry, Chris, unless you're coming to Calgary anytime soon. It's a local pickup. Okay, Denis, who was the first person on Facebook? Simone, right on, Simone. Awesome. So you get yourself either the charcuterie pack or the immunity pack, and then Gestalt, who's our next? Alex Mayer. If you're local to Calgary or you're coming here anytime soon. So it's going to be at Light Cellar Monday or Tuesday next week. So let's say Wednesday next week. It'll be here ready for you, and that'll be easy for Simone. But for Alex, just send me an email and we'll have that for you. All right, cool.
That was
any final kind of words of inspiration, wisdom that you want to leave us with tonight?
Maybe I should sing a song, maybe? No, I would never do that. I think my whole journey began with getting into ferments was to build a legacy for my own family and my kids. That was really what got me interested in fermentation and really building a strong family, but that really starts on the inside. So
yeah, literally, right?
The word legacy always comes to mind
Mhm.
with ferments when we look back to the wisdom of the past and these types of foods, making the resurgence, coming back into homes. Nothing but good things ahead. So I always think when the first word that comes to my mind is building a legacy
Totally.
for your family and passing that forward. It's kind of skipped a couple generations. It's time to bring it back.
Yeah, and you're a living example, as many of us are, that we can get started creating this legacy anytime.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether you're C-section, formula fed, and all the rest of it.
Lucky
right?
Charms is my favorite cereal. Tube cheeseburger from McDonald's. So
Yeah.
you can do this. If this is your first introduction from last weekend, this week, start where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You start with your chapter 1. Don't compare yourself to that people that are maybe at chapter 25 or 40 in their fermentation process. Just start at chapter 1. Build that legacy.
Yeah, cool. Right on. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Melina Roberts, to Jodie Campbell. And looking forward to tomorrow night. Deanie and I are going to show you how to create your own booze.
I'm in.
Living probiotic, herbal, all the rest. Yeah, for sure. So that's tomorrow. And we got a whole incredible week coming up. Any other comments? Anything coming through, Gestalt or Deanie? Yeah, we're all good. We'll keep plugging them in.
Awesome.
We'll keep answering them. And then replays will keep coming each day as I download and upload. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
for
right
having
on.
me.
Thank you, Jodie. That was so
It's
scary.
good. I like
All right, take it easy, everyone.
That's what it is with these two. When you watch them, you're like, do they know they're still on? Does the presenter know they're still on?
Yeah, camera's still rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's